Welcome back, everyone. My name is Dr. Tony Chopper, and this is the finale, the final part, for the Master Grade Sazabi Ver. In this part, I'm going to bring him through the ringer, and he's going to get it. Hopefully he doesn't do too bad of a score, and we'll get to see how he stacks up to other Master Grades in the grading system. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, in terms of articulation, this beast does a adequate job. When we talk about articulation, we're not talking about posability. Individually, each and every one of his parts does an okay job of actually doing what it's supposed to do. The arms move pretty decently, almost 180-degree bend. He has a good range of motion out of everything else as well. In terms of the legs, you can't really ask too much out of those big honking meat calves. And also, there's quite a bit of movement in the skirts and everything else. So overall, his articulation gets a very solid 8 out of 10. In terms of the posability of this guy, this is where he really starts to falter. He can't really do too much in terms of posability because he's incredibly limited by what he can do because of all the different moving armor pieces and whatnot. Every time you want to pose him, something will shut and close. That really is kind of the main story when we come to talking about this kit. He can't really do too much in terms of posing. The legs aren't very sturdy. Same with the arms and everything else. You can't really do too much even with that amazing articulation that the guy actually has. So when it comes to posing, he gets a very bad 5 out of 10. In terms of weapons, we get things like the funnels, the beam tomahawk, the long rifle, also the beam shot rifle, the beam sabers, and whatnot. And also, of course, the parts that go inside them. Now, one of my biggest concerns and biggest complaints with the kit is the rifles. It's specifically the beam shot rifle, his signature weapon, really. Every time you try to put it in the hand, it does an okay job. This part's incredibly loose. I know they wanted to move this back and forth so that it can actually go somewhere, but it comes apart almost every time, at least for me. Of course, I didn't glue this in. You might have more success if you glue it in and have it, like, flush up against that part, but even then I found that this part comes off way too easily when trying to put things in as well. So you probably don't want to use this, and if you do use this, you want to customize it. Also, the long rifle, although it does have some gimmicks. You can put the Sanaju Stein rifle or the bazooka in there and whatnot. Also the Sananju's giant bazooka, if you had that one. This actually doesn't do too bad of a job. This stays in the hand relatively well, and also there are some seam lines on this though. That's probably the biggest knock against this, other than the fact that it only has 2 colors with the reds showing through, not really doing a whole bunch of anything. And of course we have those beam sabers and the beam tomahawk and whatnot. Now this is where the kit actually probably does the best in terms of weapons, other than the funnels. These things are absolutely beautiful. They fit in the hand well. No weight issues, of course, because they're so light. And they actually look menacing. Now, I wouldn't really use the beam sabers too much because they are a little small, especially for his size and scale. But the beam tomahawk blades look absolutely amazing in that green, and that's a huge bonus. And, of course, those funnels, I talked about them before. Here they are. Now, the funnels are incredibly good, but they are a little bit fragile, and you're gonna have to be very careful. And in terms of actually pretty much putting it back into the funnel form, it can actually break apart like this. I haven't really found a very good way to do it, so it's kind of like luck of the draw with that thing. So you got to be very careful, otherwise it can blow up into 1 billion pieces. And don't forget, you have 6 of those, so be careful. And in terms of the score for the weapons, this kit gets an overall score of 6 out of 10. The only redeeming factor of this kit actually getting a passing grade for this is the beam effect parts, also the melee weapons, and the funnels. If we're talking about things like these, he will fail instantly. Now, in terms of sturdiness of the kit, as you can see here with the shambles of what it is, it's going to get a terrible score because it's absolutely not sturdy at all. It's very flimsy. I gotta say, all the armor pieces are really loosely connected. They're not exactly in the best position. they're very, very bad in my opinion. There's a lot of different things that you won't be able to get right away. The armor pieces don't always overlap properly either, and we also have issues with things like this. They will come off very, very easily. And also, when you do have the arm transformed and you want to put the shield into the shoulder part, who the hell's idea was it to get a massive shield and have the connection point be this itty bitty part? As you can see, there's of course stress marks on it, and it will not last. Why, Bandai? Why? So, with that being said, the sturdiness score, I'm going to give a major failing score on this one. He's going to get a 3 out of 10. The worst score I've ever given for sturdiness. Ever. Now, in terms of the playability and options in the kit, you do get quite a few. You have two different modes you can play with. You can play with the normal mode or the transform mode. Personally, the transform mode looks 10 times better. You also have a bajillion different weapons you can actually put on him, which makes him a decently solid kit in that sense. You have a lot of options. You also have the option to put on all those crazy decals in water slide form if you choose to, if you're crazy, or if you have a lot of time on your hands. And with that being said, for that score though, playability, playability and options, he gets a solid 7 out of 10. He does a very good job, but he doesn't exactly go above and beyond or, blow you away in any other sense though. Now, there is one area of the kit that I did like, and that is actually the proportions on him. Now, before I wasn't too big of a fan of the proportions of the kit, mainly because he did look very stocky and kind of fat. But it made him even more fat and bigger and filled out when the transformation parts were actually released and you could see him. So in that sense, with the transformation parts, he does get a very good score. Without it, he does average. So we're going to go right in the middle, and he'll get an 8 out of 10 for his proportions. Alright guys, now in terms of his color separation, I know I've been ragging on the kit for a very, very long time, but one of the things they did do very well is how they separated some of the colors, at least on the armor. Now, you do have the option to put some stickers on several areas to, separate that little color a little bit. But other than that, it does a decent job, though. You do get some areas where you do have to mask parts off, but it's not very, very common. It's not too much. The only places or areas you're really going to have issues with the color separation on the kit is on the weapons. The red is actually stuck on the inside, and there's a massive seam line going down there. So you could have to work around that. Also, for the beam rifle here, you can technically paint up these parts first and then slap everything else on together, but that is just another hassle. So in terms of color separation, it does a fairly decent job, and it scores a solid 7.5 out of 10. Now, in terms of nub marks and seam lines, this guy does an average job. He does have quite a bit of seam lines, and they're mainly for the seam lines, they're actually in the weapons. Can't really do too much on that. Really wish they did a better job on that, though. And in terms of nub marks, they're actually all over the place. There are some in some pretty bad areas. Notable ones would be ones on the biceps, also some on the top of the shoulder, and we also have some for the propellant tanks here. So we're talking about some areas that are kind of in the middle of the piece, and not exactly in the best spot to put them. So this guy gets a score of 6 out of 10 for nub marks and seam lines, because he does have some. Now, in terms of the overall looks of the kit, this is an area I really can't bash. The overall looks look amazing. Straight out of the box, you don't really have to do anything in terms of painting or lining. I haven't lined it at all, and it absolutely looks beautiful. Currently, it's just standing there with the amazing different colors on it and everything, and for that, the overall look of the kit gets a solid 10 out of 10. I really can't take my eyes off it. I just kind of wish that it would be able to stand up better. In terms of extras, we're not working with a whole bunch here, but there are some things that you do have. The basketball char, and we also get things like the water slide decals. Now, these are the only two things that are really apparent for extras, and for that, this kit gets a 2 out of 5. Now, I decided to change the scaling for the extras category from 10 down to 5 because I feel like 10's a little too much to give, and it's an extra category anyways. I shouldn't really put too much. So there you go. Alright guys, it's time to give you my final score for the Master Grade Sazabi Ver. Now he has a lot of ups and a lot of downs to the kit. Now hopefully he'll do decently, and if you've been adding up you probably know already. But for those of you who haven't, I'm going to tell you right now. The Master Grade Sazabi Ver gets a final score of 72.5 out of 100, which nets it a B score. Now, it's not one of the solid scores I've actually reviewed. For something this incredibly expensive, I personally was expecting a little something extra. It didn't deliver in terms of posability, and definitely not in sturdiness. The two areas that you really want any Master 8 kit to actually deliver on. A couple areas I want to really point out for the sturdiness problems is the hip joint area. One of them is very loose. Those ball joints are not the best idea in terms of having such big legs, in my opinion. And we also have the waist section, incredibly terrible in terms of just staying up. Sturdiness does falter because of the weight issues of the backpack and the upper body as well. And overall, there's just a lot of flimsy parts on the kit that need to be addressed, and honestly, I think the transformation really took away from the sturdiness. If there wasn't a transformation, maybe it would have been more sturdy, maybe it would have been more solid, and maybe I wouldn't give it such a bad grade. But there you go. Alright everyone, that concludes the review for the Master Grade Sazabi Ver. Now I hope you guys liked it. And if you did, please give me a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and support the cause. Now I want to leave you with two more little things. Number one, the kit was incredibly satisfying to build, and after you do finish it, it looks amazing. You have this really this sense of fulfillment. You're like, damn, I made that. It feels great. And also a little kind of a warning to people. If you haven't really built too many kits, don't jump into the Sazabi just yet. This thing will tear you apart. It's very complex and hard to build. So if you're not fully prepared with skills, tools, time, and patience, don't try it. Alright guys, my name is Dr. Tony Chopper, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out!